Hey, what's going on, guys? So I want to give you a quick recap of the first day of the draft. And, I was thinking about doing some live reactions. I actually had one up and then decided to take it down. I just figured it would be just easier, I think, to post like a full review of what I think of the three picks the Miami Dolphins took yesterday in the first round. So we're going to break them down. I definitely would love to get your feedback. So if you guys like the picks we made, I want you to tell me why you like them. Give me your opinions about all the picks that we made yesterday. Leave a comment down below. And then if you're not subscribed yet, definitely subscribe. Please help the channel grow. And without further ado, let's jump into it. So with pick number 5, the Miami Dolphins decided to go Tua Tagovailoa. Now, it's not really a surprise to a lot of people. I certainly understood it. I kind of anticipated a Tua pick. That does not mean that I agree with it. And I definitely see the upside when it comes to Tua. And I think when you evaluate him, when you look at him as a prospect, you can't just look at the negatives with Tua. There are certainly positives, and the positives are huge. He's phenomenal in the pocket. He's very good at extending plays. He's got an accurate arm. He's got an NFL mind. In my opinion, he's a very sharp guy. But I just think that at the end of the day, if you're spending a number 5 overall pick, this is an invaluable pick. And in some circumstances, your team's hardly ever going to get a top 5 pick, unless if you have just a history of losing. But when you're looking at a top 5 pick staring at you, and you have the choice between a solid player who is going to be healthy and a guy with tons of upside who has shown throughout his collegiate career that he gets injured very easily, who is certainly going to have the potential to get re-injured, if not multiple times in the NFL, at least once, which guy would you want to take? And when I assess and when I really do sit back and evaluate everything, do I like Tua's upside? Yes, I absolutely like his upside. And if you don't like his upside, then you're crazy, because he's got phenomenal upside. But at the end of the day, spending your number 5 pick on a guy who is hurt, who will probably get re-hurt, who is small, who is left-handed, who had everything around him in Alabama to succeed. So no kidding, he succeeded. I just think it's a really, really risky pick. I'm not a fan of it. I think that if I were Chris Greer, if I were Brian Flores, I would have gone in the direction of a tackle. I would have built my team where it needed to be built. And something that I want you guys to consider, and I've been talking to a few different people about this, and I want you guys to just think about it. If the Miami Dolphins would have nailed this first round and had a good draft altogether this year, you're looking at 2020, they address their offensive line, they address safety, they address running back, they address maybe even like a slot wide receiver, because I'm not wanting to pay Albert Wilson $11 million. There's absolutely no way I'm trying to pay that guy that much money. So let's say these are the positions that get addressed and all of these guys pan out and are good NFL players for the Dolphins. The odds of that are slim, and I totally get that. But let's say that that's what happens. Now, if that's what happens, then when you're sitting at the 2021 NFL draft, the Dolphins, for all intents and purposes, are pretty much a quarterback away from really being a significantly good team in the NFL. You're looking at, you have a very good defense, a potentially great secondary with everybody that you've got. You have a good defensive line. You've got good linebackers. You've got a decent offensive line if you address tackle at number 5. You've got good wide receivers. You've got a decent running game. At that point, what else do you need but a quarterback? So if that was the situation yesterday and we draft to build the team rather than to build one person, it would have made so much more sense to me, because a lot of people talk about tank for Tua and, trying to lose for Trevor Lawrence next year or whatever if we didn't take a quarterback. If we would have built the entire team how it needed to be built this year, we would be a quarterback away. Sell the farm for Trevor Lawrence. I don't even care, because at the end of the day, it doesn't even matter what your however many picks we have next year. We have 2 first-round picks next year. We've got a handful of other picks beyond the first round. Give them all for Trevor Lawrence. At that point, if you're that confident in he could be the guy and he's healthy, sell the farm, because at that point, you're only a quarterback away. Now, where the Dolphins currently sit at quarterback is Tua Tagovailoa, who is talented, who is smart, who is brittle. I just can't get on board with a pick in the top 5 for a player who has had 2 ankle surgeries on both ankles. It's not like it's on one and it's a nagging ankle. He's had 2 ankle surgeries on both ankles, a serious hip dislocation, which could alter his career for forever. We don't know. We've never seen him on the football field since that injury. We don't know if he's going to come back the same player. And Tua apologists, the people who love him, could say all day long, it's the same injury as Bo Jackson, but medicine has improved. And, back in the day, their injuries were way more significant than today, and medical advancements, and Tua's, not as big of a guy, so not too much of a worry. You could say whatever you want to say about this situation, but at the end of the day, you're taking a quarterback who is one hit away. I mean, he is one hit away, guys, from ending his career, from at least ending a season. I mean, he's one practice away from getting hit by Devon Godchow or Christian Wilkins and them just landing on him, a little bit too hard one day. And that's it. That's his season. It could happen in the preseason. It could happen in the regular season. It can happen whenever. And that's why I don't like the Tua pick, is because it brings anxiety, man. And I think if you're a Dolphins fan, you clearly want your quarterback to succeed. How can you not have anxiety about Tua behind the offensive line that the Dolphins have? We don't have a good offensive line. It's not terrible. It's not as bad as it was last year, but it's certainly not the best. And it certainly is much worse than it would have been had we got someone like Andrew Thomas or Jedrick Wills on the team. These guys are good offensive tackles who are going to improve the entire situation for whatever quarterback's going to be playing for your team. Now you're taking a quarterback who is injury prone, who could easily re-injure behind a very average to below average offensive line. That's a recipe for disaster. I'm not a fan of the pick. I would have completely done things differently, but I also want to disclaim Chris Grier and Brian Flores know way more about football than I do, and I'll be rooting for Tua. Obviously, I want him to succeed. He's a good guy. He's a good quarterback. He just has so many injury questions. It makes me really nervous. It's not to say that I'm not going to pull for him. Obviously, I want him to succeed because I want my team to succeed, and he's part of my team now. So, I'm pulling for Tua, and I do recognize that these guys in the office for all these NFL teams know so much more about football than I ever could. So you have to, at least in some part, put a little bit of faith in their decision-making and their evaluation and whether they think these guys will produce. Because I guarantee if you're Chris Grier and you're Brian Flores and you're looking at Tua and you have hesitation, you have a doubt that he's really going to be able to stay healthy for your team, you're probably not going to draft him onto your team, because why would you screw yourself out of a job? Pretty much, you're going to draft a guy like that and he never plays. Chris Grier is out of a job, so you wouldn't want to screw yourself out of a job. So at least have a little bit of faith that maybe Grier sees something that we don't. But at least for right now, just in the immediate future, I don't like the pick for a number of reasons. We'll see how it pans out. Let's move on to pick number 18, Austin Jackson, offensive tackle, USC. Now, this pick is probably the one that I have the least amount of a problem with. Austin Jackson is a good enough offensive tackle. The problem that I have with this pick as well. Also, I wanted to give grades for all these picks. So for Tua, if I can throw graphics on the screen, I will for you guys. But for Tua, I'm going to give that grade like a C. I don't think that it is. I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's an F. I don't think it's a horrible pick. But it's obviously nothing close, at least to me, to if they would have picked offensive line. Or, I mean, guys, this is not comparing talent, but even if they would have picked someone like Justin Herbert, who is going to be on the field, who is going to have the opportunity to progress on the field. So for Tua, I give that a C. I'm not a fan of it, but I don't hate it at the same time. I just don't like the pick. I really don't like the pick, especially behind this offensive line and in this situation. So, okay, moving on to Austin Jackson. He's a project, and I wish if the offensive tackle position was as big a need as everybody thinks that it is to Chris Grier and Brian Flores, if it was as big a need, why did they not try to trade up to get an offensive tackle? There are guys like Tristan Wirfs, Jedrick Wills, you have Mekhi Becton, who are sitting around that 11, 10 spot, somewhere right around there. You're telling me that it's really that impossible, that hard to trade from 18 to 11? You have the capital for it. You have so many picks this year. You have so many picks. And next year, there are so many options for you to potentially trade up to get the guy that you need, not want. Austin Jackson could be a guy that you want. But someone like Jedrick Wills, someone like Tristan Wirfs. That could be a guy that you need on your football team to improve the offensive line. When you improve the offensive line, you improve your offense. And that's just point blank. If you have a bad offensive line in front of a good quarterback or a good running back, for most part, they're just not going to perform up to what they should. So I have such a big problem with drafting Austin Jackson just based on the fact that he's a project. And the biggest problem that I have with it, guys, I'm really trying to be reasonable. I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to get it. Offensive tackle was a position of need. He was probably the best offensive tackle in their minds because, I've read articles on Austin Jackson. I've watched tape. I'm not a huge fan. I think he's small. I hate his size. He's 6 foot. He's the same size as our center. I don't like that. Maybe it's great because Tua's small, but I'm not a fan of his size. I wish that he was bigger. He is very athletic. He is a very hard worker. According to everything that I've read, according to everything that I've heard, he's a ridiculously hard worker. He's always in the gym. He loves working his butt off, and I like that about him, but he's still a project. He's still a project. And the problem that I have with it is, if you're looking at left tackle as your number one position of need at this point, and you're saying we need to have a solid left tackle, a young guy who is going to be a stud, who we can build around for a long time to come, you had that. We had that last year. We had that 2 years ago in Laramie Tunsil, and we traded it away. And that's the problem that I have with this is, why would you trade away a good young left tackle? This is the most important position on a football team, in my opinion, for just a question mark. You don't know if Austin Jackson's going to turn out. He might be a superstar. He might be an all-pro for years and years. Great. That's amazing. And I would be more than happy to see that. But at the same time, we had an answer at left tackle already. We trade that away and we replace it with Austin Jackson. Now, I get that for a lot of people, there's always a price. There's always a price, for players, for situations. So, we're looking at, Laramie Tunsil saying 2 firsts. I mean, that's too much to pass up for left tackle, whatever. But you know what? At the same time, you're replacing Laramie Tunsil at this point with Austin Jackson. And I don't think anybody is going to be able to convince me, and no one should even want to try and convince anybody, that Austin Jackson right now is a better option than Laramie Tunsil. I don't care what they get from the Laramie Tunsil trade. Austin Jackson is a massive step down. Now, he's a project. Like I said, he might be really good in a few years, but we had someone that was good now who is a building block for a team, especially if you're trying to build the right way. You have a young guy at an important position who is a Pro Bowler, who is a good player. That's a guy that you want to build around, not trade away, and it drives me nuts that now this is how it's turning out, that we have Austin Jackson on the left side instead of Laramie Tunsil, what it could have been. So, Austin Jackson, I'll give that pick, I'll be nice, and I will give that pick like a B-, because I do see the potential for Austin Jackson. I do like his work ethic. I do like his athleticism, but it's just a project. These guys are projects. I'm sorry to say that Tua's a project, but he is. Tua's physicals, his intangibles in terms of getting hurt, that's a project. You can't count on him come day one to be healthy on the field. Austin Jackson is a project because you can't count on him to be consistent and good at left tackle come day one. He's going to have to grow into that role, especially in the NFL. He was good in college, but he certainly wasn't great in college. And I think 18 is a big fat reach for Austin Jackson. I just think it's a big reach. He had second round projections. In my book, I was expecting someone like Josh Jones, even a guy like Isaiah Wilson, to go a little bit higher than Austin Jackson. So in my opinion, it's a reach. It's a project guy. I'll give it a B- just because I do see the potential, but it's still a project. So gotten through Tua, gotten through Austin Jackson. Now we're going to go to pick 26, and this is a pick that I really hated in the moment. I got mad. I got up. I walked away from the TV because I just didn't understand it. Noah Igbinoghene, cornerback, Auburn. He's a good cornerback. Now, let me just get that out in the open. I don't think that he's a bad cornerback. I don't even really think that he's a project. I think that he can come into a team day one and produce pretty good numbers and pretty, good football as a cornerback in the NFL. I think that he's a NFL-ready cornerback. He's very good. At Auburn, he was a shutdown guy. He will lock you up, and he's very, very good in the slot. That's what Miami needs, is a nice slot guy. But, man, not in the first round. Not in the first round. You know, it's like I don't even understand. It's like Chris Greer had the right idea and went about it the absolute wrong way. It made no sense to pick up a cornerback in the first round. If you were to ask me the things that I don't want the Miami Dolphins to do in the first round, take someone who's injury prone high. That's Tua. Take a cornerback. Okay, don't need that. And take a running back. There's no reason for you to take a cornerback. There's no reason for you to take a cornerback in the first round when you signed Byron Jones to a ridiculous contract. You already have Xavier Howard on a ridiculous contract. We've got almost tied up $30 million in two guys for cornerbacks for our secondary. Why would you draft another one in the first round? You're going to have to pay him first round money, right? It's a position that you addressed heavily in free agency, and you just don't need it. If you're drafting someone in the first round, this is a guy who you're saying, this is someone who we see as a starter day one who is going to produce a long time for our football team. Great. And like I said, I think Igbenogany is a good cornerback. I've studied him a little bit. I don't know everything about him, but I actually do think he's a pretty good cornerback. I have no problem with the pick. I have a huge problem with where the pick was. You know, and here's one reason why. I was talking to my dad and some friends last night about it. You know, Igbenogany could very well be one of the best cornerbacks that comes out of this class. Why is he on the Dolphins? Because if he could be one of the best cornerbacks in this class, the best that he's going to be able to do on this team is slot cornerback, is nickel. He's not going to be a boundary. He's not even going to be your number 2 guy. At best, guys, Noah Igbenogany is a number 3 cornerback. Why are you drafting that in the first round, Chris Greer? It makes no sense. I mean, I wanted to pull my hair out last night because I liked the pick. I hate the placement of the pick. So I don't even know what to give that in terms of a grade, because Igbenogany is probably the most talented guy that they even picked up in the first round. I'm taking into account, of course, that he's going to be on the field. You know, if you're comparing talent, I mean, Tua is clearly the most talented guy. I mean, he's almost the most talented guy in the entire draft if he's healthy. But if he's healthy, that's the biggest question. He might not be healthy. So Igbenogany, really, at this point, I have most confidence in him to come in and be a solid NFL player. It's just a stupid pick at 26, at 30, because Green Bay traded up. But at 30, it's just a foolish pick because there are so many more needs that we could have addressed. And I think at the end of the day, guys, what I want to do, like, before I end the video, I want to talk about, just really quick, the trades that came through. So when we traded away Minkah Fitzpatrick, we got that number 18 from the Steelers. So if you want to have this kind of logic with these trades and with these picks, you could say you trade away Minkah Fitzpatrick, and basically in return you get Austin Jackson. Now, I don't know if you guys are okay with that kind of scenario. If Austin Jackson were in the league for 1 year, he's a rookie, and you have Defensive Player of the Year candidate, absolute Pro Bowler, All-Pro, Minkah Fitzpatrick, who could be this guy could be Ed Reed for 10, 20 years in the NFL. You know, not 20, but, 10. This guy, he has all the makeup to be one of the most dominant defensive players in the NFL, and he showed that as soon as he got to Pittsburgh. So if you guys think that would be a good trade, trading Minkah Fitzpatrick for a project left tackle, all right, I don't see it, and I think it would be a terrible trade. I would be pissed off if that was the trade that we got. So that's essentially what you're getting. And then in the same sense, you look at the Laremy Tunsil trade. We get a first round this year, first round next year, and a second as well. The first return on that Laremy Tunsil trade is a cornerback that we're bringing onto this team who, at very best, on this team in its current condition, at very best, if he lives up to all the potential in the world, doesn't even matter. If he's one of the best cornerbacks in the league, doesn't even matter, because we already have our number 1 and number 2. We're already paying him $30 million combined. And the best that this guy's ever going to be is a slot cornerback, is your number 3 guy. That's the best he's ever going to be on this Dolphins team in its current condition. Now, that's current. If Xavier Howard winds up getting cut, traded, same thing with Byron Jones, whatever, then it's a different story because he can step in. But at very best, right now, he's a number 3 guy. And that's all he's going to be able to do with Jones and Howard sitting on the boundaries for as long as they will. So if you're telling me that we trade away a Pro Bowl left tackle, 24 years old, stud, that's your building block right there. That's a building block for your team. You get rid of him, and the first return on your investment is at best a number 3 cornerback, I'm throwing a fit over that scenario. It doesn't make any sense. So, guys, man, all I want is the Dolphins to make smart decisions in this draft, and we didn't, man. We missed it. We missed this first round, and that's the part that bothers me so much is like when you sit back and you think, and I know this video is going a little bit longer, so I'm sorry that I'm going a little bit long, but thank you for hanging in there with me. Just want to say that. The biggest problem, the biggest thing that makes me really upset and bothers me, and if you're a Dolphins fan, it should bother you too. This draft, this 2020 NFL draft, had the potential for the Dolphins to be one of the greatest drafts ever. You had this offensive tackle class is so loaded. There's so many good guys to take early. Wide receivers, so loaded. You could pick up a really nice slot. Running backs are going to be good, and they might pick up one today. So I'm going to be posting this video today, just a handful of hours, before day 2. But there's so much potential in this draft. I don't think it's one of the greatest ever, but I certainly think it's a really nice draft class. And the Dolphins have a ton of picks, 15 picks now. God, this had the potential to be one of the best drafts in Dolphins history, and it will go down as one of the worst. And that's what I hate. That's what I hate about this scenario. If it turned out to be we hit on a couple of guys and then, and then the rest of them is all right, and there's no like huge busts or no like really questionable scenarios, then okay, you know what, I'm not happy with it, but I can live with it at least. I can't live with this situation. I'm not good with this situation. You've drafted an injury-prone, brittle quarter. He's made of glass at number 5. He's going to get injured again. I'm telling you, he's going to get... There's no chance that this guy comes into the NFL with 350-pound guys hitting him, falling on him, and he's not going to get re-injured. The odds of that happening when it happened time and time again in college are so high. I can't count on him staying healthy. So that's your first pick. Your second is a project. Your third is never even going to be able to live up to his potential because of what you have in front of him. This draft had so much potential to be great and has absolutely fallen flat on its face. And that's what just pisses me off about this draft. I wish it were better. I really do. And I do see potential. I see potential in Tua. If he stays healthy, great. Like I said, I'll be the first person pulling for this Dolphins team in its condition. I'll be the first person pulling for Tua, for Austin Jackson, for Igbenogany. I want all these guys to be superstar, of course. Like I want the Dolphins to be great, and they're the Dolphins. So I want those guys to be great. I want them to be amazing. I just think the odds of that happening are slim for so many different reasons. So I don't know, guys. Maybe a lot of it depends on day 2. If they're able to draft someone like McKinney, at least that addresses, safety. You can bring Bobby McCain down to your 4th corner. And I was also talking about this with some friends last night. If Bobby McCain is your 4th cornerback, you're in a pretty good scenario. You're in a good situation on your team defensively. If Bobby McCain's your starting free safety, you're not in such a good position. So addressing safety here, at least at day 2, if they're able to pick up McKinney or maybe even someone like Winfield Jr., they're able to pick him up. That addresses 2 positions. It does address the initial safety, but it also, you're able to bring McCain back down to corner where I think he is much better. So it addresses 2 needs. I think it's something that they need to focus on day 2. And then we'll see what we go with our other pick. It might be running back, could be a receiver. I mean, there's a few different things that I could see this team doing. Maybe interior offensive line. I mean, there's a couple of guys that I think are going to go in the 2nd round. Dolphins might be interested in. So keep your eyes open, guys. Definitely, try to stay positive. It's frustrating. I'm really frustrated about the first round, and I might be in the minority because I know a lot of people love Tua. I like Tua. I like him as a guy. I love him as a guy. He's a super cool dude. Really humble. I like that about him. He doesn't toot his own horn. He's a really cool guy, and he's got tons of talent. I just have a hard time believing that these guys are going to pan out for the Dolphins. I hope that they do. I really hope that they do. And I know that I'm probably in the minority, but I just don't see it happening. And I so want myself to be wrong about everything that I said. If I'm wrong about everything that I said, I'll be happier than if I was right. And that's a fact. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. That was my rant. That was my soapbox for day one. Hopefully day two goes better. Hopefully we kill it later in the draft. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Stay tuned for all the rest of the draft videos that I put out. I'll be kind of keeping you guys updated. If there are any bigger acquisitions that they make later, like in the 4th and 5th rounds, I'll let you know. Other than that, I might be putting out another review for day 2. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Enjoy the rest of your night. And as always, fins up.